everyone, so I'm Laura Smith and my presentation is on Water for Elephants, the novel, and my presentation is mostly on the theme of appearance versus reality. So just a short introduction to my novel. It's about the main character, Jacob Jankowski, who works on a circus, but he actually had to drop out of veterinary school as both of his parents died in a car accident, and he was left with absolutely nothing, no money, and really nothing to do. So he left and was almost forced to join the circus, like I said, and the whole novel just kind of shows a different side to the circus that you wouldn't really imagine and haven't seen. And he then gets to work as a vet on the circus and help the animals. So the novel is told in an interesting way. It has two different perspectives. So it has the Jacob in the circus, which is actually like flashbacks as Jacob is a lot older now, and there's the other perspective of the older Jacob in present day, who is in a nursing home and is just kind of flashing back to his days on the circus, which were a long time ago. The circus days were not present day at all. And the film was later turned into a movie, so we're just going to watch a bit of the trailer. Sorry for this, and just to, yeah, here's the trailer.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the most spectacular show on earth!
Excuse me, sir, can we help you? You know circuses?
1931. It was the Benzini brothers.
That's the most famous circus disaster of all time. Are you telling me that you were there for...
Right in the middle of it.
All those arrows you threw them away.
I don't know if I picked that circus. Something told me that circus picked me.
Please don't.
Okay, so that just gives us a good idea of the general tone of the novel and also the movie, I guess, and just kind of what it's about. So my thesis for this presentation is that the novel's main message and theme proves that appearance does not always correctly represent reality, and I show this through different elements in the novel. So people aren't always how we perceive them and things. And so the elements in the novel that prove this are the characters, the relationships between the characters, the setting of the novel, and also just the format of the book. So I'll be talking about some of those today. So first off, the characters in the novel. As you can imagine, working on a circus, there's a lot of unique and kind of crazy characters in the novel. But most of them are wrongly perceived from our first impressions of them, and we learn as we read the book that, you know, that's not really true to who the character is. So the characters really prove the thesis statement true, that a book or a person can't be judged by their cover. So, you know, we judge people, but that's not really accurate of who they are. So the first character that's an example of this is Rosie, and Rosie is the elephant in this picture. So this is the first time we ever get to see Rosie in the movie or the novel, when they decide it's a great idea to get an elephant. And so she's actually introduced as the dumbest bull ever, and bull is just another word for elephant, kind of like a slang term. And when we are introduced to Rosie, she doesn't do anything. She just stands there, and she doesn't seem to know any tricks. So everyone kind of thinks, wow, Rosie's a really dumb elephant. What are we going to do with her? But in reality, we see that Rosie actually doesn't understand English. She only understands Polish. But luckily, Jacob is Polish and speaks Polish, and they get Rosie to do all kinds of amazing tricks. Like you can kind of see, if you can see in that photo, she's standing on her head. And so we learn that Rosie is really smart from this. And also, in the novel, she manages to steal the lemonade from the circus, and she does this by pulling out her steak, takes it with her, and then drinks the goddamn lemonade, which is a quote from the novel explaining how smart she is to be able to leave her pen by herself, take the lemonade, and get back without anyone noticing her. So we know Rosie isn't stupid. Also, from secondary sources, elephants are proved to be one of the smartest, most social, and most empathetic animals. So we can see that, again, Rosie obviously isn't stupid. So another character that proves our thesis is August. So August is head of animals and animal kind of training in the circus, and he's married to Marlena, another character in the book. And at first he seems really nice, like he looks like a nice guy. And when he first meets Jacob, he actually gets Jacob his job on the circus, and then is super welcoming, inviting him for dinner and all kinds of things. But in reality, we learn that August is actually the opposite of all of these things. He's not only abusive to the animals, but also becomes abusive towards his wife. He's very ruthless in training the animals and just everything to do with the circus. And he really only cares about his own wealth and well-being. So we can see this in the book when Jacob says, "Despite this, the distraught listeners could still make out the hollow thud of a bullhook hitting flesh again and again and again." And this just is describing one of the many times that August actually beat Rosie for not really doing anything particularly wrong. So another character, as the pictures are kind of bad quality, but is Walter, who's described as a grumpy, annoying dwarf, and he is a little person, but he's a performer in the circus, and Jacob actually shares a room with him, and at first he really keeps to himself and is quite grumpy, but in reality we see that he's super compassionate and super caring. He himself is probably the sole reason why another character, Camel, the old guy in that photo, is kept alive. Camel's really sick, and Walter does all the care for him. Also, he has a small dog that he really cares for, and in the novel, Jacob says that Walter and Camel spend the night making noises men make when they're trying not to cry. So Walter thinks he's lost his dog, and he loves that dog so much that he's up all night crying about it. So it just shows how loving he is. Now, the relationships in this novel are also wrongly perceived when we first see them. The character I was talking about before, August, is with Marlena, the woman in that photo, and at first they seem super happy together. She's always saying, "Oh, Augie, like, I love you so much." She has a nickname for him. They're always happy, but later in the novel we learn that August is actually abusive to her and kind of forced her to marry him. So in the novel, she says he refused to budge until she married him. So, sorry, Jacob's saying that. And so Marlena actually was kind of pressured to marry August and realized she really didn't have any other options. So that's kind of why they're married, not because they're so in love. Another relationship that we wrongly perceive, and that, it appears a certain way, but in reality is not that way, is Jacob with a woman, Barbara. And Barbara is the one who she strips for men, and that's kind of her job on the circus, to entertain the men. And her and Jacob, when Jacob's drunk one night, spend the night together, and everyone on the circus kind of thinks now that the two of them are involved, when in actuality they really don't know each other, and no one else really knows that. So Jacob explains this to Marlena one day and says, "I'm not involved with Barbara. I hardly know her. I don't think we've exchanged more than a dozen words in our lives," showing that everyone really doesn't know the truth about that relationship. And so my third point about how the appearance of something doesn't represent the reality of it is the circus in general. So the circus, obviously a big portion of the book, and the first point is that spectators and people come to the circus and think, "Oh, the animals are so cute, they're so well behaved, so happy," but when in actuality the animals are being abused for their entertainment. So if people did know this truth, they might not enjoy the circus so much and might not think the animal shows are so great. So in a secondary source, It was also stated that this type of abuse will continue until there is no longer an audience for it. So, if people really did know the truth behind the animals' lives, they might not like that entertainment, but no one knows. So, another example is that in the circus we see these great tents and beautiful trains that house all the performers and workers at the circus, but in reality we don't actually see any of the workers at the circus, we just see the happy performers. And the performers are treated super well, while all of the workers behind closed doors, their pays are getting cut, they're being deprived of food when there isn't enough money, and some of them are even murdered by getting thrown off the train. So terrible lives for them, but you wouldn't think that when you go to the circus and see all these beautiful performers who are being treated so well. So we see this in the book when it says, in addition to Walter and Camel, 8 other men went missing last night. So just showing that people are actually getting pushed off the train to be killed because they're not wanted anymore. And also, a secondary source states that the train conditions for the working men were always full with too many men and lacked any proper accommodations. So the trains we see here are probably not the trains that the workers actually lived on. In the book there's 2 trains, one for all the important people and then one for all the workers that was just absolutely awful. And finally, the circus really proves the thesis as families come to enjoy the family fun circus, but in reality, the circus is also running separate services that the men of the families are sneaking off to. So the circus offers things like prostitution, stripping, and alcohol that men will sneak off to while their families think they're enjoying the circus. So this is really bad. People think the circus that is really innocent and a lot of fun, but really it's not innocent at all, and crimes are being committed, as it also was during the Prohibition, so alcohol was illegal as well. But the circus kind of housed a place for all these crimes to happen without anyone knowing. So Jacob in the novel says, I spend 45 minutes standing guard outside of Barbara's tent as she entertains gentlemen callers. Just showing like there is a lot of bad things that are going on in the circus you would never imagine. So here are just kind of old circus tents that we probably find in the novel. Here would be the big entrance that all the families would enter, and here are just some separate other tents that, who knows what's going on in there. Animals might be getting abused, prostitution, drinking alcohol, tons of things that aren't allowed or that you really wouldn't expect behind a fun circus. So that's it, but thank you for listening. Sorry it was kind of long, and just remember that things aren't always as they appear at first.